So we all know that when turnout is low, Hillary Clinton tends to win big. Now, this was the case in Arizona. Turnout seemed pretty low. But this isn't because people didn't want to vote. They actually did. In fact, potentially hundreds of people, maybe even thousands, left or were turned away because of Arizona's voter suppression tactics. So there are multiple ways in which the state of Arizona has suppressed the vote. Now, Hillary Clinton won by about 18 points, and her voters are silent on the issue. But this concerns all Democratic voters. Because if you think that this issue isn't going to affect Hillary Clinton if she does become the nominee in November, think again. So in 2012, Arizona had 300,000 voters participate with only 200 polling places to accommodate them. I'm going to repeat that. 300,000 voters, only 200 polling places. But now get this. So in 2016, the estimated turnout more than doubled, which is typically good for Bernie Sanders. So we would have expected him to win because the turnout in 2012 was 300,000, and this time it was estimated to be 800,000. So it actually nearly tripled. So you would expect that Bernie Sanders would perform much better than he did. But they cut the number of polling places down to 60. That means for every one polling place, there were about 13,000 people trying to vote. Now, in some counties, like Maricopa County, there was approximately one polling station per 21,000 people. I'm going to say that again because this is really crazy. One polling station for 21,000 people. People had to wait upwards of 5 hours to vote. Many of them left. If you have a disability or you can't stand long or you just had to get back to work, guess what happened? You had to leave. You couldn't stay there and vote. So I want to remind everyone, if you're not aware of this, we live in a democracy. This isn't supposed to be happening in a democratic regime. You should be able to vote easily so. But the fact that there was 21,000 people per polling station is ridiculous. These are the types of tactics that you see in authoritarian regimes where they don't want people to vote. Now get this, in areas where there were more Latino voters, there was only one polling station per district, and in some districts there were none. So if your district was busy and you only had one polling station in these densely populated areas with Latino voters, you could try to go to the next district, but neighboring districts had zero. So in some cases you didn't have a single polling station in your own district, and you had to leave your district and go to the next district, which is already jam-packed. So according to US Uncut, Maricopa County Recorder Helen Purcell was responsible for the reduction in polling places in 2016, justifying it by saying turnout was traditionally low, so the solution was to reduce the number of places where citizens could cast their vote. Now, when confronted with this, guess what she did? She literally blamed voters. I'm not joking. Check it out.
Who's to blame for these long lines?
Well, the voters for getting in line, maybe us for not having enough polling places, or as many as we usually have. But I think we've seen the hype in the last, I'd say, week to 10 days of the candidates, the national candidates coming here, which we haven't seen in past years. So I think that's kind of stirred everybody up, energized them.
There's definitely high interest. Now, are you saying voters should have sent in ballots by mail because you're saying they're partly to blame for standing in line?
Well, no, they're not to blame for standing in line. But they went to the polling places. They could have voted early, or, that was their option in this instance. So I don't mean to blame the voters.
Who's to blame for these long lines?
Well, the voters for getting in line.
Now, there was also evidence of vote purging going on. So if you are trying to vote in an Arizona primary, you have to know that it's a closed primary state. So for some people who wanted to vote for Bernie Sanders, vote Democrat, who were mistakenly registered as independents, well, they were given these provisional ballots, and we all know that those people are more likely to vote for Bernie. So Kelly Thornton, he is an election day technician in Yavapai County. He said that he was given a script by the Yavapai County Recorder's Office to read to voters verbatim when they asked if their provisional ballots would be counted. The script outright tells the voter that if they cast a provisional ballot when the system lists them as independent, their vote will not be counted. Now, here's the image of that, and here's what it said. If an independent voter asks if their provisional vote will count, please tell them every provisional ballot is checked for eligibility. If you are not registered as independent, other, party not designated, or libertarian, you are not eligible for this election, and therefore, by law, your vote cannot be counted. If you are registered as a Democrat, Green, or Republican, and your ballot is otherwise eligible, then your provisional ballot will be counted. Now, according to Heavy, many people who had voted Democrat in past elections reported that when they showed up to vote, their names were not on the list of registered Democratic voters. So let's backtrack a little bit. Votes were purged. If you were not registered correctly, and in some cases this wasn't to the fault of some people as they were switched, not because of their own doing, well, they tossed your vote. That's what happened. So we don't know how many votes were purged, but we all know that independent voters are overwhelmingly likely to support Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton, so we don't know how many votes he lost there. Now, in addition to this, we're going to take out our tinfoil hats for a moment because there were some other suspicious things that happened. So there were 4 suspicious evacuations of government buildings in 4 locations in Tucson. And these occurred during peak voting times. So this means that everything was put on hold for an hour. People who worked there couldn't answer phone calls of voters. Everything was put on hold. So now if there was a legitimate bomb threat, then I want them to evacuate the building. But given the fact that all these other shenanigans are occurring, we have to wonder, is this legitimate? Was this purposeful? Who knows? We don't have evidence for that, but I think that it's worthwhile to note that this was the case. Now, finally, at 8:30 p.m., about an hour after polls closed, guess what happened? The press had declared that Hillary Clinton was the winner, even though not even 1% of votes had come in, and even given the fact, get this, that there were hundreds of people lined up to vote in many districts still. So they were sitting there waiting in line, and they got the news that Hillary Clinton won, with less than 1% coming in, and they didn't even vote yet. What the hell is going on, guys? This is absolutely maddening. How can you declare Hillary Clinton the winner when you don't even have all of the votes coming in yet? When you have people standing out in line? Now, we all know that it's the case that Hillary Clinton did end up winning. Maybe because of these voter suppression tactics in Arizona. And if that's the case, then that's bullshit. And Hillary Clinton can be happy now, but again, it's going to come back to bite her in the ass in November against whatever Republican she runs against if she does become the Democratic nominee. But the fact that news outlets would have the audacity to declare Hillary Clinton the winner when people are still voting and you don't know how they're going to vote, that's messed up. That's some bullshit right there. So now, here is Bernie Sanders' response to all of this madness.
We got an email last night from a woman in Arizona who was waiting online for 5 hours to vote. For 5 hours to vote. Now, whether that, whatever the cause of that problem is, people in the United States of America should not have to wait 5 hours in order to vote. We do not know how many thousands of people who wanted to vote yesterday in Arizona did not vote. We don't know if they wanted to vote for Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, or whoever. We don't know that. But in the United States of America, democracy is the foundation of our way of life. People should not have to wait 5 hours to vote. And what happened yesterday in Arizona is a disgrace. I hope that every state in this country learns from that and learns how to put together a proper election where people can come in and vote in a timely manner and then go back to work.
Now, here's what you need to do. We need an investigation. Sign the petition. Thankfully, it already garnered over 100,000 votes, or signatures, excuse me. So, it will be the case that the White House is going to have to address this, but we still need to keep on piling it on, because the more signatures it gets, the more recognition and notoriety that it's going to get. So we don't need the Obama administration to take its sweet time. We don't want to delay. We need to sign, even though it's surpassed its threshold, to show him that we want a response now, that we want an investigation. This is absolutely insane. Not only did Arizona brazenly attempt to suppress the vote, but the individual responsible for this blamed voters. I feel like we are living in the Twilight Zone, and this isn't reality, because these people, they can't be this dumb. I mean, if you're going to suppress the vote and you're going to try to limit Latino communities from voting, you'd think they would at least be a little bit less open about it, but they don't give a damn. They don't care about you. This is supposed to be a democracy, and This is happening right in front of our eyes. Let me tell you this. If you are in Arizona, you should be right in front of your county courthouse or county clerk's office protesting with a sign calling for an investigation, because this is outright maddening. This is insane. And everyone across the country should be extremely frustrated with this. Because again, even if you're a Hillary Clinton supporter, don't think this isn't going to hurt your candidate's efforts as well. Voter suppression overwhelmingly hurts the Democratic Party and their voting blocs. But even if it's the case that voter suppression harmed the Republican Party and their voters, we should still come out against it because this is wrong. We live in a democracy and it shouldn't be this difficult to vote.